Well, that was one of the more extraordinary days of Test cricket that I've seen, and I've been saying that a bit of late. Fantastically entertaining day. Not a great day to be a third umpire. Not a great day to be a fielder. Lots of catches down, lots of controversy. The crowd actually got pretty involved. Bigger crowd than might have been expected. And it wasn't just Aussies there today. There were a fair few people from the local area as well, cheering on the West Indies vociferously. So let's get right into it. It started day two. West Indies 4 for 57 in response to Australia's 180, and the controversy began right off the top. Controversially, Hazelwood had Brandon King, a big appeal LBW, given not out, and the Australians challenged it. And instantly, as the replay came up on the big screen, the first replay, the Aussies thought they had him because there was a sliver of a spike just as it seemed the ball was passing the front pad. There was no question it then deflected off the bat and then back onto the pad. But the Aussies thought the umpire would have no choice but to say the first impact was made with the front pad and that therefore it would go onto ball tracking. It looked pretty plumb. I think the actual third umpire got this one right, and he realised that that first sliver was actually the ball hitting bat. There's always going to be a potential for a mismatch because you've got the audio is continuous, whereas the vision is frame by frame. And sometimes, especially if the spike is right to the right or right to the left of the line, then it indicates that it's slightly mismatched with the frame. So he, to the surprisement and bewilderment and massive disappointment of the Australians, ruled that there was bat first and therefore it was not out. To be fair to the Aussies, they didn't carry on like the pork chops they might have once. They made a few, inquiries and they were clearly unhappy, but they got on with things. Anyway, the first drop catch of the day then occurred. Sam Constas dropped Roston Chase at short leg. It was a tough one. Can't really blame him. It was one of those ones that either stick or they don't. Then Alex Carey dropped King, a much easier chance. Not easy, but he still should have got it. Dropped it, and Kawaja probably should have got it on the rebound, but he couldn't hold that either. Then there was a ball change. The Australians requested the ball to be examined, and yes, it didn't pass through the circles when it should have. It was not the first ball change of the day. That was another feature of the day. There were plenty of ball changes. Then Josh Hazelwood got King out, shouldered arms at one. It came back, bang, into the off stump. He was out for 26, and it just felt like the Aussies were going to run through the West Indies then. But instead, Shy Hope and Roston Chase put on a really nice little partnership. Now, Shy Hope, everyone, whenever we mention him, talk about the 2017 wonderful twin centuries he scored against England at Leeds and how he looked like a super talent. And his average just doesn't stack up. And I've always thought it's quite puzzling. And I was interested to hear Ian Bishop in commentary say that shortly after that series, a little while later, they went to New Zealand, and Neil Wagner really, as he did, used to bowl some intimidating stuff. And I think he said that it sapped Hope's confidence. Well, the way he batted today, you look at him and think, he really should have a much higher average than he does. Anyway, they got it through all the way to lunch, which was very impressive. Just after lunch, before a ball was bowled, the ball was changed again. And then the biggest controversy of the day. Roston Chase was given out LBW to Cummins, but he immediately reviewed it and was confident that he had inside edged it. And remarkably, it was all very similar to that earlier dismissal that I talked about. I've never seen an instance like this before, let alone it happened twice. And then, as you'll hear, it happened 3 times during the day. I thought it was the same situation where the ball was clearly hitting bat first, and that there was a bit of a mismatch with regards to the sliver. And if anything, it almost looked as though the cameras were slightly out of sync. You know, they've got the front on and a side on camera for the ball track, for the ultra edge. It seemed as though one of them was a little bit a frame or two ahead than the other one. Anyway, very difficult situation for the third umpire to be in. He ruled that this was pad first. They went on then to ball tracking. It showed it hitting the stumps, and Roston Chase, to his evident and justifiable fury, was out. Fury didn't react too badly. He just walked off, but he was clearly upset. Ian Bishop in commentary was excellent and pointed out with no equivocation that he thought the umpire had got it wrong. Incidentally, it's interesting to hear Ian Bishop calling the game unfettered. You know, in the IPL, you had the sense that he was under instructions not to be too critical. Here, he gave his full, honest, full bore opinion, and it was excellent. And I think that clearly the umpire made a mistake. But as I said, it almost seemed as though the technology was hindering him as well. So Chase out for 44. That then heralded in a long period of very slow scoring between Graves and Shy Hope. Bo Webster was brought on, got a bit of extra bounce, and dismissed Graves out for 4. And then the next big controversial moment of the day, because Shy Hope um, inside edged Webster, and Carey took what seemed to be a fabulous catch to his left, diving, really great catch. And Hope was willing to walk off, but the umpires checked it to just make sure that the catch was a clean one, as is correct, and as they do these days. And then on the replay, when you look at the slow motion close up replay, it's one of these ones that, oh, hang on a second, this is interesting. Now, I listened to Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon do a really good podcast a year or two back on the final word, where they talked about how the rule and the playing condition for what is a clean catch is very, very brief, and that there is a kind of a working interpretation that the world umpires have that is more detailed than what's in the rules and than what's in the laws and the playing conditions, which is bonkers in the sense that it should be in black and white. But what they said was that what they do is, if the palm is facing upwards, then even if the ball incidentally brushes the grass, it's still out, unless the grass was actually used to hold the catch. So if you catch the ball and your palm is facing the other way downwards, and then you incidentally brush it against the grass, that's not out. If it's facing upwards or downwards and you use the grass as sort of leverage to make sure that the ball doesn't bounce out, that's not out. But if your palm is facing up and the ball incidentally brushes a blade or two of grass, that will still be out. Under the spirit of that interpretation, if that is still what they are doing, then I think that the umpire actually got this right, and it was correctly given as out. It's one of these ones, if you pause it at the right moment and you want to say, no, it wasn't out, you can freeze frame it and say, look, there, it's surely hitting the ground. But as I said, that doesn't matter. You might even argue, well, actually, no, the ground is helping him hold it. But I think if you watch it frame by frame with an impartial mind, you come to the conclusion that at best it might have brushed a blade or two. The grass wasn't helping him hold it. Therefore, it was correct to award it out. Now, before you say that I'm a crazy biased Aussie, yesterday I think they got it wrong when they didn't give Travis Head out caught behind. I thought that one was out. So I think by that interpretation, this is probably out. But when you look at the whole thing that probably the ball did brush the grass, you can see why the West Indian fans and players and commentators were significantly aggrieved. It's an area of the game that needs to be qualified. It did then prompt a funny moment where the first ball maybe the second ball that Shamar Joseph hit, faced, he hit for 4, and one of the West Indian ground staff was aggressively signalling the boundary as the Aussie fielder went to get it. There's a nice amount of passion. The crowd was getting pretty worked up in an exciting and a good way, not in a nasty way. Shamar Joseph hit another nice boundary. Looked like he was in for a breezy knock, but Stark bowled him excellent in-swinging low full toss, swung considerably, hit him on the pads and then dribbled onto the stumps. Alzari Joseph, a couple of lusty blows, but then Cummins cleverly brought Lyon on, and Jaden Seals tried to smack him out of the ground. Well caught by Webster at long on. And that was it. The innings was all over. West Indies, I think, did better than maybe a lot of people, including me, expected. They ultimately made 190, so they got to be 10 runs clear of Australia. So I think they would have accepted that at the start of the day, although probably Australia would have accepted that yesterday when they were all out for only 180. Shy Hope 48, Roston Chase 44, and Alzari Joseph 23 not out from just 20 balls were the standouts, such as there were. Stark 3 for 65, a little bit expensive in after his initial great burst off just the 16 overs there. Hazelwood 2 for 41 off 18. Cummins incredibly economical, 18 overs, 2 for 34. Lyon 1 for 28 off 5.2, looked fairly innocuous. Maybe that'll be very different in the second innings. And Webster 6 overs, 2 for 20, an important contribution. So that was on the stroke of tea. After tea, the Aussies came out. And this is where the fielding of the West Indies really, it must have driven their fans to distraction, because Constance shimmy down the wicket, edged one into the slips, and Campbell dropped a very catchable one yet again off Shamar Joseph. And you wouldn't believe it. I think it's 2 balls later, he gets dropped again, Constance, off Shamar Joseph in the slips. This time it's Justin Graves. And it's like, I think that's now the 13th catch dropped off his bowling since the start of 2024. It is just absolutely incredible. Then Khawaja out LBW to Alzari Joseph, one that was reviewed, but on umpire's call was just clipping the top of the stump. So fair enough, but Khawaja will feel he's a bit unlucky. And then Shamar Joseph, the cliche goes, well, it's not a cliche, but they're saying, decided he'd do it all on himself. And he induced an inside edge from Constance onto the stumps, out for 5, faced 38 balls. Now, I just don't think that's the way for him to play. It was mainly defensive with a few bizarre sort of flashes of aggression, but there's no future in that style of play from Sam Constance. Then there's a ball change. Cameron Green was given out LBW to Graves. I thought it was Plum, but on review, it was shown that it wasn't Plum. It was going over the top, green light, so he was reprieved. Then Inglis let one go and was clean bowled by Seals for 12. He faced 33 balls as well. Now, I mean, yesterday, Cummins came out with great intent and aggression when he batted. He knows that's the way you've got to play on this pitch. Why isn't he saying to his team, hey, guys, play your natural games? Like, I don't understand why Inglis and Green are playing so defensively, feeling like, they've got to play proper test cricket. Then there's that third incident that I mentioned of a ball that might have brushed the pad before then going onto the bat, before then going onto the pad. Green was given out LBW. The West Indies reviewed. Again, this time it was also complicated by the fact that he also definitely hit his back pad as well. The umpire initially said there's no bat involved, then switched and said, let me just check that again, and decided that there was bat involved, and so was given not out, much to the displeasure of the crowd. Again, I actually think he got this one right as well, but it was a difficult one. A little bit of the sting was taken out of the situation where Green was out, caught it slip off Graves for 15 shortly thereafter. Also faced 47 balls, wafted at one that he got out on. He'd be far better off playing this like it was maybe not a T20, but maybe an ODI. Those 3 batters, I just don't understand the way that they're playing. But there is certainly something in the pitch, so I can't be too critical. There's another ball change at this point. Then Webster kind of proves my point, playing shots right from the start and looked much more at home as a result. He finished the day on 19 not out from just 24 balls. Travis Head at the other end is 13 not out. He did face 37 balls, but towards the end, I think he was just playing for stumps, and he is someone you can never accuse of being too defensive. He did get wrapped on the fingers by a nasty one that jumped from Shamar Joseph, but seemed to shrug it off. Hopefully he's okay. So at stumps on a pulsating day, Australia 4 for 92, leading by 80. Constance 5, Khawaja 15, Cameron Green 15, Inglis 12, Head and Webster not out 13 and 19, as I said, 4 for 92, 1 wicket each to Seals, the 2 Josephs and Graves. So tremendously entertaining day of cricket. This match is proceeding at great speed, and I would hate to try to predict who's going to win. Looking forward to day 3.